this might be my favorite block. It was not the first one I did. In fact, I kind of dreaded it incidentally. I was very worried about how I was going to have all these pots look like they had different plants in them. And in the end, it worked out fabulously. Okay, so we did a little bit of ruching of flat braid in block 2. This is ruched a little bit tighter, so that means, let me find a piece of flat braid here. So what I typically do on this, and there is I will link up to a video that I have on how to do it. I usually cut it about 12 inches long. Where's my scissors? There they are. I cut it about 12 inches long. I go ahead and tie a knot in one end and thread it so that I would come up through right here. And then on the other end, while it's still threaded, I still have my needle in it, I'll go ahead and pull so that I get it ruched. And I don't want it to be nice and even like that last one was. And so I'll just kind of tip it over and flop it around, and I have a completely separate needle with thread in it that I will go ahead and tack it down. Let me make sure I'm in the video. Yes, I am. Okay, I'll just go ahead and tack it down. So the needle that I'm tacking down with stays on the back side of my project, and this stays on the front. And when you get to the edge here, you can choose to either tuck it behind and just keep right on tacking, or you can take it back to the back and tie it off. I like tucking it behind because I think it's a little bit faster than having to tie it off. And then I'll get another 12-inch piece and go ahead and do it again. And you have 2 packages of the color for this is called Parrot. It's kind of it's not a lime green, and so that one ended up with the name Parrot, but that you have 2 packages of it, so you should have plenty, and you'll just be able to cover your spaces. Now this is when I was early starting with this, so you can see more straight lines back and forth. I would not do that. If I were doing it again, I would wiggle around more, and so that I did not end up with lines with it. Okay. Let's see. The last thing I did on this one was the black bars on it, and the intention with the black bars, I don't know if you can see from this one, they're supposed to be curved, like they're tighter up by the window at the top, and then they kind of curve out and leave room for the window boxes down here. So because of that, that's why you get the curve that's in them, but it tends to look like my quilter messed up, but she didn't. The curve is supposed to be in there like that. All right, let's see what other things that we might need to talk about on this one. This is a raised leaf stitch, and I want to talk about that one. These are just bullion knots. A longer loop, a littler one in the middle, and 1, 2 down here. And we'll talk about how to use this ribbon to get this look. This is detached chain stitches. Those are tiny chain stitches. This is right here, I think it's a palestrina knot, but it might be a coral stitch a few times on the top of that one. Let's see, these look like itty bitty palestrina knots. Those are really close fly stitches. Let me zoom in case you can't see what I'm talking about here. There we go. But you can always look at your full color photo. Really close fly stitches. I will talk about how to get the look of the ribbon on the irises. This is a wheat ear stitch. These are French knots. And again, that's detached chain stitch. As far as the top edges of the pots and the decorations on these pots, again, it alternates with different things. This one is a piece of the flat braid just tacked down all the way across the top of there. So I need to show you how to work with this ribbon. I need to show you this one. And then I think I mentioned that I want to talk with you about, these are exactly the same as we did on block 2. This one is really close to what we did on block 3. These guys right here are, it's like a blanket wheel or a buttonhole wheel, but I just didn't go all the way around. So I would start right here and I go almost all the way around, and that kind of gave me those big flower look to it, but you can see how they get caught each time. Your thread goes in and comes out to that spot each time. Okay, to get this look here, what I did was a close blanket stitch. I don't know if you can see it very well. How close am I zoomed in? Let's try one more. Okay, so this edge is the blanket stitch edge that I just did over and over again, and then I did a back stitch along this edge. You can kind of see those separate stitches there, so that it had a ridge on both sides. Okay, so that's how you do those windows, and these are whipped back stitch, and the ones across this way are whipped chain stitch because I wanted them to be thicker. Same thing with these guys right here are whipped chain stitch. So we need to talk about how to do the raised leaf stitch, and we need to talk about how to do that ribbon. All right, let me grab some things and I will be right back. Okay, in order to do a raised leaf stitch, you need at the bare minimum a little piece of cardstock. There's also a product that Sue Spargo has that's called Spoke Easy. No, it's not this. It's not Spoke Easy. It's her one that is called Loop Easy. That is the same sort of thing, but out of acrylic. I have one that does this as well as other things that's called Slippers. And so but you need something that you can consistently use. Okay. And we need our thread, and we're going to go ahead and mark where we want the leaf to end up. So I'm going to mark, this is the point of the leaf, and this is the base of the leaf. So what I'm looking for is for something to look like this, but you don't need to draw your leaf. You just need that line right there from the tip to the base. Okay, so the first step is to come up from your back side of your fabric at the tip, and then turn around and go back down in as close to that spot as you can. It's best if you go in the same hole in your fabric, but you don't want to catch your fabric. So sometimes I just make sure it's close. Okay. And did you notice that I put my stick in there? Okay. And I'm going to put it up near this end. Now, every stitch I take will come in or go out of this line. That's why I marked it there. So I'm going to come out. I'm going to lay my cardboard on the right side of my stitching line here, and I'm going to come out. Okay, and I want to keep it snug enough that it will hold it in place. There we go. So then I'm going to tip this over. And when I tip it over, now I can go down on the right side of my stitch, or my stick, and my loop will go around it. See how it went around it like that? Flip it back to the other side, come up on the left. Always your stitches are going to be in that white line that you drew, or that blue line, depending on what color marking tool you have. Turn it the opposite direction, go back down, but make sure you're going back down on that line. So this in and out, again, mine's magnified, so mine aren't next to each other. You're going to want them next to each other. You want to keep those stitches pretty much as close as you can get them. Okay, don't come back out on this side, because then you'll have a problem. Remember, you got to flip it over first. Am I in the right spot for you to see this? Let's see. Yep. So you'll come out on this side, flip it over, and you'll bring your thread around, go down on this side. I can't see my white thread, or my white line, so I got to move it until I can find that white line, so I know exactly where I'm going. So for most of these stitches, I like a raised leaf stitch to have at least 5 stitches on it. I feel like shorter than that is just a little bit too little. So let's go and do our 5th stitch. And then once we go down with our 5th stitch, we are going to flip it back over as if we were going to make, now these will look nicer if we keep them in order. There we go. We're going to pretend like we were going to make another stitch. So we're going to come out at the spot where we would make a 6th stitch. And then you can just pull this out and try to go back through, but I worry that I won't be able to get back through them, or that I'll catch them somewhere. So I take my needle and run it up alongside my little cardboard piece here, through all of those loops. Okay, and I also use my thumb to kind of flat press them so that I know where the middle is. And then you lay them down like this. If you want a leaf that's long, you lay them down like this. If you want a leaf that goes up like this, just scooch them up a little bit, and you'll go down to the back a little bit higher, and you'll get a leaf that is more maple leaf shaped. And I can't remember from my project what shape they were. Yeah, some of them are a little bit longer, but some of them I've scooched it up as I've taken that stitch. Okay, so that is a raised leaf stitch. All right, let's talk about how this ribbon behaves. I got a piece of bigger ribbon, so we could talk about how to do that. Again, if you're looking for the pieces that you need to do your raised leaf stitch, a little piece of 1/4 inch wide poster board or cereal box will do the trick. If it were thinner, I might want to make it a little wider, because those loops, it's the size of those loops that make your thing the right shape. So this one is a 1/4 inch wide, but it's the thicker cardstock. It's not cardstock. It's the thicker stuff. So if you had thinner, you might want to make it a little bit wider. I originally had these in a few different widths, but over time they wear down. So I do like the acrylic versions. Again, Sue Spargo has one that's called Loop Easy. I have one that's called Slippers. It does a couple other things besides this. Okay, let's talk about this ribbon. Okay, I have a whole, a couple of videos on my YouTube channel about how to use silk ribbon, and it would behoove you to look at those first. They will teach you how to iron your ribbon before you start, which I do not have even a spare outlet to iron my ribbon down here, so I'm gonna pretend. And then they also talk about how to thread your ribbon. Where did I put my needles? There we go. When you thread ribbon, first of all, you need it ironed so that it's flat and can go through the hole of your needle, not folded in half like this. There we go. You don't tie a knot. Wherever it gets folded like this will terrorize the ribbon there and ruin it. And so because of that, you actually just run your needle back through the edge of your ribbon about 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch from the edge, and then pull on this, and it will, you've sewn your ribbon to your needle, but now it won't pull out. Okay, in order to sew those stitches, and I want to get those down here where we can see them. Really, what I was doing here was going, first I did the tall ones or longer ones going up, and then I was like, okay, now Iris's leaves tend to flop in half, and so that's what I was looking for, was a way to make those flop in half. So first I'm going to show you these. I wanted them to go in on the end, and that's called a ribbon stitch. So if I start, whoops, you need a knot tied, and that knot, I don't tie it like a quilter's knot because I don't want to overwork the ribbon any harder than I have to. So I don't want to pull it through there. Okay, so we're going to make them from these little, we're going to pretend like this is the top of our pot, or the bottom, yeah, top edge of our pot. So I'm going to come out right here. And now when I want it to lay down, I want it to lay down up here, and then I want this top one to be pointed. Again, if I had ironed it, it would help. I'm going to do what's called a ribbon stitch. So instead of just going back down, I'm going to go through my ribbon right here. And as you go through your ribbon, it will pull in the edges. You lay it in the right spot so you can see it. It'll pull in the edges just like this. See them curling like that? How tight you pull it will depend on how tight those curls. So how pointed you want them to be, that really is what determines it. So pull them until you get it a little pointed. And again, if it were ironed, it would be better. When I want to do the ones that fold, I do the same thing. I come up from here, and then I want them to be flat out here, and then I want it to fold down like this. So I take a little green sewing thread so that it matches it. And the bare minimum, this isn't very wide ribbon, so it works with it. The spot where I want it to fold, I need a stitch across here to hold it with, again, a sewing thread that's thin and matches it so you didn't even see that they were there. Whatever angle you do that stitch at, that's the direction it's going to fold. So if you do the stitch sideways, it'll go like this. If you do it back this way, your ribbon will fold back like that. So pay attention to what direction you do it, and then again, lay it down. Okay, this needs to be pulled tight because it's kind of swooping there. There we go. Lay it down where you want it to go. Do a ribbon stitch, so go through your ribbon. And that, if it were ironed, is how you will get the look of those leaves on your irises. Okay, now you are ready to do, I think I called it like pots galore or something because it had so many fun different pots. Pay attention to your instructions on this. It tells you what color to use because there's 4 different terracotta colors in this, and it'll tell you which ones to use with which ones. Okay, we'll see you in the next video.